Comments.
All right, we're broadcasting. And
Hi, everyone.
hey, the way the people come in.
Yeah. Peter, I am so excited to continue doing Caribathon with you. I read Caribbean books all through the year, but I just love seeing what other people share and what other people are recommending because
Uh-huh.
I think no matter how many Caribbean books you read, you can't read all of them. You never hear about all the authors on your own. Like you need recommendations from other people. So I love this. I love this time of
Yeah.
year. I love the whole experience of hearing about Caribbean books and Caribbean authors. So I don't know. I don't know if we're going to get some new recommendations this afternoon. I know we're here to talk about the
I
book,
know,
but
right?
I could stand to get another Caribbean recommendation. So for the people
Yeah.
who are watching, who are going to watch this in the future, viewers in the future, please leave your comments with your recommendations. I will come back to this video periodically to hear what you guys are recommending.
Okay. Hey everyone, we got Dee Dee in here, Val, Anna. We
Hi
have
guys, Didi in the house.
yeah,
You said
we have
Anna?
yeah, Anna's in here. Um
Let me see. Oh, there we go. I could see Annabella. Hi, Anna. Hi, Charlie. Alba is
yeah.
here. Gina is here. Mad World 1962. I don't know the first name, but hi, Mad. Readers got to read. Mackenzie. Readeropolis. Love seeing you guys. Oh. Didi said we just finished discussing The Bridge of Beyond by Simone Schwarzbart. So good. I agree.
Mm.
So good. That was one of the first books that we read for our book club a few years ago now. And
Is
man,
that
did
is
I
that
love that.
I'm not familiar with this one. So is that a Caribbean book?
Oh
You guys
yes.
are
Oh
you guys
yes.
are already dropping recommendation. You guys
Yes,
already
Simone
dropping.
Schwarzbart is from
Let's get the because I don't know that.
she's a Guadeloupean author, so she wrote in French.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if she has or had other books, but I love that one. Love it. Okay, Didi says she's going to reread it in French. So Didi, you're going to have to let us know how that
If the
experience goes, how
if
it
the
compares.
translation was good.
But love that book.
Okay.
Yeah, a
All
little bit
right.
about how women's
I had to
lives
write that
change.
down. Mhm.
Yeah, definitely
So,
has some
hey,
feminist themes, I think.
so let's do a quick introduction. Hey guys. So of course this is our second group read, but our fourth year of doing Caribathon. And so, of course, we selected this book, and I'm so glad that you guys join
We're
us
gonna
in
do
reading this book.
thumbnail.
And this is a Caribbean book. It also is a debut novel from Brienne McIver, and this is very Caribbean. Very Caribbean. I felt Caribbean. I felt Trinidad. I felt the culture of the music, the food, the
The
customs,
food.
the issues, the
Yes,
politics. I felt
yes.
everything in this. So,
Mhm.
um, for those of you, if anybody in here from Trinidad that's in the chat, let me know because I would
Yeah.
love your input as well as some of the things that they talk about because both of us are Jamaican, so a lot of
Yes.
things we don't know, but I
Mhm.
do think that it's nice to get input like, okay, is this really authentic? So
Yeah.
feel free to chime in the comment and yeah. So
Yeah, well, what I think makes it authentic is that Brienne lives in Trinidad. She's not an author who maybe like spent the first 5 years of her life in Trinidad and then went away and is like writing nostalgically. She lives in Trinidad. She continues to live in Trinidad. I don't know if there's some auto fiction to this book. Please don't say that I'm saying that it is, but I feel like the book feels authentic to me. Like it feels like real Trinidad experience. It feels like you were saying, it feels very Caribbean. I feel like I can experience the culture from reading this book. I love that she talks about people who go overseas and then return. So she's talking about people who have experienced Trinidad in lots of different ways. And so I feel like it's very representative. So yes, I would love to hear if there are Trinidadians. Fatima is Trini.
Uh,
Fatima, you have to tell us, how do you feel reading the book? Because I know sometimes the people from the country don't agree with all the representation. You're saying Didi said she's a makeup artist. Brienne is a makeup
ooh.
artist. I could see that. I could see that. Her makeup is always on point.
Yeah, which makes sense because there's a lot of detail about makeup in this.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
even just the making of the makeup is
Hmm.
discussed in this. So
Hmm.
one of the things that I would say, I like the drop of history. Every so often she would drop some historical things in the
Hmm.
book. And
Hmm.
I think that made the book even more interesting, especially when you talk about family. And the Caribbean is a melting pot, and there's a lot of people who typically don't realize there's a lot of Chinese,
Yes.
Indian in the Caribbean, especially Caribbean that are mostly like, especially when you think of some Caribbean country that are, oftentimes people assume it's just Black people there, and that's not the case. So I like the cultural things that talked about in this, as far as Brianna talking about her family, her Chinese heritage, and
Hmm.
how that play a part in certain things that she experienced with her father and how she was raised.
Hmm. Yeah, and obviously I'm not Chinese, but growing up in Jamaica, I had like a lot of classmates and schoolmates who were of Chinese background, and I felt like I saw them. I saw their experiences. I saw a little bit of their family represented here with the just a strong work ethic and just like how focused they are on like um the narrator in here talks about her father seeming to love the labor for the labor itself, not just for the wealth that it would procure him.
Hmm.
um, and so I love that. I feel like that's true. I mean, I'm sure it's not true for everyone, but
Hmm.
stereotypes, they're often based on some true part, some truism.
Yeah.
I like how she delivered that for sure.
Hmm.
Alba says, I didn't realize Bianca was of Chinese extraction until about the middle of the book. Yeah. Yeah. Dominic Chan Kit.
So how did you feel about Obadiah in the beginning? Like before we really got to know him, how do you guys feel? What like the initial reaction? Because I know for me, I was like, mm-mm. Like, mm-mm. I felt the Mr. Darcy, they were trying to make it
Yeah.
like, that
Yeah.
kind of character.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm like, are we trying to make this a hate to love you kind of situation? I
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
thought
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was what's gonna
Yeah.
happen,
I
because of
agree.
how aggressive he was, and how when
Hmm.
you think of Bianca in the beginning, her self-esteem was just this much left, and he was managed
Yeah.
to like knock the rest of it out
Yeah.
immediately. And I was like, oh no, here comes another man that is like breaking her down more than she had to be, because she started not eating. The eating became a thing in the story where it's not really focused on, but you can see that it is an issue where she's like losing all this weight, she's not eating, she's worried about how she looked, just by that conversation that shouldn't have been that major but was.
Yeah. It's interesting too for, as you mentioned, the food and her relationship with food, how it shifts, because in the beginning she is she's using the food as an expression of her culture and her link to her culture. She goes and she buys chow mein and she's thinking about how her mother taught her to prepare it and so on. And she's, kind of walking around and seeing or smelling the food that's being prepared. And then this departure from it, where she becomes so strict with what she takes in. And for me, if you guys did the Caribathon food bingo. There's a lot of different kinds of food in the Caribbean, and I love seeing food being mentioned in Caribbean books. And then here we have this character who's not eating. Hello, author, you're supposed to be giving me some food references here. But even when she wasn't eating, she was still, the food was still coming around her. So I love that. But yeah, food, our relationship to food is just like so complicated.
Yeah.
And we see her experience a lot of those extremes, to the fact where, man, this girl was getting sick because she's reeling from this one comment that this guy
Yeah.
makes back when he was trying to establish himself as like the alpha male.
Yeah. And
Yeah, when
even
he
in
came
the
around, I
story,
thought he was terrible.
yeah, and also too, I like that it was addressed because it's
Yeah.
like his
Yes.
interpretation of he felt like he had to be brutal when he commented to
Yes.
women in order to get them to want to look pretty in how he felt pretty was.
Yeah.
So I like that the author went there with it, but she also like added in it in the story where it's addressed and it's not just slide over. And then also give him a conscience because he started seeing how she falling apart and she was looking very thin, and he was trying to like figure out how to really make up for what he said because
Mhm.
he realized he had an effect on her even though she tried to
Yes.
come off as she was tough.
Yes. So as tough as he comes across in our first meeting with him, I really like that when we first meet him, we see the harsh reality of his life. The first section where he's introduced, where his timeline or his contribution is being introduced, we see him dealing with these water shortage, and the effects, what that really looks like when you don't have water coming through your pipes,
Yep.
and you're someone who's so focused on your appearance and your presentation, and him talking about having to catch water in a bucket to. Okay, so you guys gonna have to help me with this because I have an idea of what it's saying, but in Jamaica we don't have the term juking board. Peter, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, we
But
don't.
when he says, if water is my last clean shirt, this is on page 77. My last clean shirt. If water isn't back by this evening, then it's me again with a juking board and a bucket lug from the standpipe. So, I'm very familiar with
We're my
carrying water
Trini.
from the pipe to go do laundry, to go wash your clothes and bathe. But we see him doing like really intimate things and dealing with the harsh realities of life. And you realize that some of what he says might be him detracting from the attention because he doesn't want too much attention around him. He's on his last clean shirt. He don't want you to come too close. And he throws out like these darts, these arrows to kind of keep you at a distance and keep you on your toes. So as harsh as he comes off in the beginning, I like that when we first see his timeline, we can feel a little empathy for him. Or was that just me?
Yeah, I'm looking to see if somebody commented on that, but no.
You
Yeah, we're
ladies
just
in the comments talking about corn soup. Listen, I could eat some corn soup right
I
now,
know,
as hot
right?
as it is today. Yeah, the corn soup really did taste it.
It sound good.
When you read some description, you feel like you can taste it.
Yep. Like,
Yeah,
some seasoning was on that.
yeah. Caribbean people know how to season their food. Trinidadians, listen, Trinidadians put pepper on everything. You guys ever eat Trinidadian mango? They put pepper on the mango.
Oh
I
no.
know, I know Fatima eats some pepper mango, pepper shrimp, pepper everything. I love it. Um, Anna
Um,
had talked about the story address eating disorders. Yes, soup is my favorite comfort food. Yeah, I
yeah.
I don't order a lot of soup when I go to restaurants. I like I like
Because it's
I
not the
like
same as the
different
soup
kinds of soup.
we know.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
why. Because our soup
yeah,
is a meal.
yeah.
It's
Yes,
a meal.
mungo soup, beef
Yeah.
soup, manish water.
All of that.
But we're not here to talk about that. We're not here to talk about. But yeah, the corn soup really sounded good.
Alicia
Um,
said She hasn't heard about this soup.
Yeah, Dee Dee said the washboard. Yeah, I think the juking board is the washboard. In Jamaica, we call it a scrubbing board. But,
The
you
reference to the
know,
water.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
The ridges in the wash tub. Okay, so the juking board, Fatima, you're saying the juking board is actually attached to the wash tub. It's like one of those tubs that is carved out. And so the juking board is in the tub itself. Yeah, Alba said she felt real empathy for Obadiah every single time he mentioned class. Yeah, I don't want to.
It
I don't
was a
want to
tough
go
one for me
too
with
much.
that because I felt like he was still being judgmental. I think it's on the one hand, you're having someone who's used to poverty and have this idea in his head what rich people do, what all rich people, because basically he
Yeah,
summed up everybody that has money in the same category and not think of some people who may have money and have issues. And I think Bianca came off to him in that way where he expected what he thought rich people kids were supposed to be like.
yeah,
So he was treating her very, I mean, honestly, he wasn't a likable person in the beginning. I just was kind of like side eyeing him so many times because he initially was using her because he wanted to gain something for his magazine. And he using
yeah,
her because she comes from money. So
yeah,
again, he put her in a category where she comes from money. So there's benefits there because she comes from money. Not so much her talent. Her talent wasn't even, he wasn't really even thinking about her talent, to be honest. He was just, I knew she can do some kind of writing, but I really think she can help me out by hooking me up with daddy.
yeah.
That kind of deal. So for me, he had to grow on me. He had to grow on me where I started to like him. But the aggression, he had too much aggression towards
Yeah.
her. Like,
But I think he also had to grow because it's not just our perception of him or our relation to him that changes. He changes.
okay.
He has a little bit of
Well, yeah, I agree with that.
he has a character arc for sure because I think because in the beginning he is so focused on trying to overcome where he is, and like you said, they have a chip on his shoulder. Charlie says, "Our boy had a chip on his shoulder about his class," and he kept daring Bianca to knock it
Mhm.
off with her poor little rich girl behavior,
Yeah.
almost as though he
He
couldn't
couldn't,
accept the fact that she
no.
could be rich and poor at the same
Yeah.
time, or that she could be rich in legacy, not necessarily money that she have right now, but that she could still be, have these terrible experiences around her.
Mhm.
Um, and I think he grows up. He grows up in the novel as well.
And this is a good point as well as this. His
Yeah,
insecurity is what make him come across ugly to me in the beginning. Yeah, that's it. It showed. It showed. It's, I think for him it's that idea that I came from nothing and I'm not going back to it. And if it means he has to do all these tricks and all these things to get out of this and make his magazine be successful, that's, I think that's what he cling on to, why he came off in such a negative way. And the story, and if you think about it too, if in the author's notes in the back, I don't know if you read the author's note, but she said a lot of people didn't like the character when she just wrote the book. So there was some editing went on
yeah,
because that, and I think too the point of view she added, because I right, somebody said on here too, it's good that she had two point of view in this story and not just focus on Bianca only. I think it might have been, the story might have been a little bit like if it was just on her. So I do like
yes.
that she added him to give like different perspective to the storyline and add some, some character development as well, because at the end you really get to like him.
Mhm.
And you really get to see the soft side of him, and even people in the story is even telling him, oh, you're changing and you're doing this and that. And also I like that they did not just add some romance in it. because that would have took away from a lot of the story.
What happened, Peter? You against romance in novels?
I'm against romance in books that is not intended to be romance.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what I'm against.
Sometimes
I've
authors feel
read
like,
some other books from Caribbean where it's not a romance, but they try
yeah.
to add some romance and
Yeah.
then it's not done right. So I was already nervous from the beginning. If you watch my vlog, I was like, "Oh Lord, where's this going? This better not go where I think it was going." And I'm glad she didn't do that because it was not necessary. It wasn't necessary. Like
Yeah. I
you
think it's a
can't always
stronger
have
story
yeah, you can't
without it.
always have I think a female character who's trying to find himself and heal and make it becomes a romance, and it takes away like, okay, is this the only way a woman can pull herself together and become a better person if romance is involved? And that's where
And
I'm one of those people that I'm a real romance. You guys know I read a lot of romance. I'm all about romance, but
I
it
do.
needs
I
to
do. I'm just
be a
joking.
legit romance.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think it's a stronger story without adding the romantic element. Because if you think about Bianca's character just growing on its own, not necessarily moving from one relationship with a very assertive man to another relationship with another very assertive man, then we don't really get to see her relationship with herself flourish. So I think it was very important for that not to be the focus of the book, or at least the focus of the ending. So I like that. I really like that too. I
yeah,
admired the fact that, because I was worried
yeah.
that it was going to be that kind of cliche, but it definitely was not.
This is how I know she's a good author because she took the
Hmm.
strain. Because I'm pretty sure that was an easy movement that she could have made
Yeah.
and make into a
Yeah.
romance. And the fact that she decided, no, we're not gonna do that, but we're gonna give you the impression that romance is gonna happen. But we're not
Yeah.
gonna focus on this in this book. We're gonna do that,
Hmm.
make it
And the
above the
elements,
character.
the elements are all there for building it up, but we don't go there. Yeah. I like seeing how the relationship between Bianca and Obadiah grows, and the things that they experience, and with each other, and that they experience with other people outside as well. Because sometimes
Mhm,
when you have a romance building, then that's all that you read about.
mhm.
And so we see them growing and liking other people, just having experiences with other people. So I like that. Um,
It's Charlie.
Yeah, I like Charlie's comment, her earlier comment where she says Bianca's family was rich, individually she wasn't. And that's something, she said, that's something that takes a bit to understand when you don't come from money. Um, yeah, before I really, because the first time I read about the family dynamics, I didn't quite catch that her parents had been married. I felt like Bianca was an outside child, like she was an illegitimate child. Like her father had this family, his legitimate family with his married wife, and then she was a child outside. Because sometimes when a child grows up in that situation, they may be looking to kind of get into that relationship with that man, to just kind of prove that they are worthy of the legitimacy status, or that they can still get access even without being legitimate. So a child who is born with their parents not married may then have a relationship with someone who's married to someone else, because it's like a thing they have to prove to themselves. And so I wondered at first if that was going to be the thing with Bianca, but her parents were married. It's just that
Yeah.
her mother died and then her father remarried. So she was his legitimate firstborn child. Like,
Mhm.
it seems a bit of a reach to think that her father would be wealthy and she would be struggling for money.
It kind of makes sense when you think about how he explained his culture. When there's
Yes.
that part when he'd explained that how his father felt about work and work
Right.
ethic, and he wasn't gonna just give you money. So he was practicing that same tough love. The difference is she had lost her mother. So there's that you can't do the tough love and not give her at least emotional support. So there was no
Exactly.
emotional support and no financial support. So with that, she was just left to to just be out there in the world and become a prey to anybody, i.e. Eric, you go. So when you think of that, the father failed in this. And not only that, she also, because I think the communication stopped because of how she felt about how he handled her mom when her mom was sick,
Yes, yes,
and
absolutely.
knowing that he was having another woman who eventually married, and how he was, behaving. So there's that hurt feeling that she sometimes didn't even acknowledge or spoke about, and she kept that feelings with her. And you see in the book how communication made a big deal, because once
Mhm,
the communication was open, she
mhm,
realized. And I think he also may have regret, but it's like typical a lot of Caribbean parents where they don't know how to apologize.
mhm.
They
Yeah.
apologize in different way without verbally saying I'm sorry. It's more of, I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to, help you. I'm going to do all this thing with it, but you still want to wait for the actual true I'm sorry, which never comes.
So
And it's a
sometimes
cultural thing. I
it.
don't know why a lot of Caribbean parents do that. Let me know in the audience, because I know this is something that I see a lot, especially in Jamaica. Caribbean parents do not like to say I'm sorry, but they'll try to do everything to make you know they're sorry.
I saw a video about the different ways that Caribbean parents or Jamaican parents or Black parents, I don't know, say they're sorry without actually saying they're sorry, or they come in
Yeah.
and they start to offer you things, or they start to talk around it. Like, didn't you know that I was going to do this or whatever? Try to make up for it without actually saying they're sorry. You just want to hear the words. Just say you're sorry. Just say you're
Yeah.
sorry, no man. But yeah,
Yeah,
you are so
it's
right.
definitely that. I
Yeah.
mean, the whole time I'm like, oh my god, is this all Caribbean parents? This
Yeah.
is just, he was screaming like, oh no, he's not gonna. But you can tell he was sorry because by the things he was doing,
Yeah,
and
but the author really highlights the culture by
yeah,
showing that development. You
hmm
know, really shows how people tend to do things just based on their heritage, how they were raised, and
yeah.
what they think they should do to raise their own children, no matter how old those children are.
I
Um,
think the mother um was grieving, but also trying to protect her daughter at the same time. Because even the point when she got sick and she didn't want him to know, and she went to the daughter's room to do what she had, because she was sick. Um, I think in her eyes, I think she just didn't want him to see her like that, because at the end of the day, she's still keeping a faith. She knew he was out there doing dirt. She knew he wasn't being faithful, and there were signs. The part with the shirt when he didn't button his shirt
yeah,
right,
yeah, yeah,
and that was just a dead giveaway. Like, oh yeah, but at the same time, she knew her daughter had to be around him. So there's that. I'm gonna try to brave it and not let my daughter not look at her father in another way, even though he's wrong. That kind of deal. Um, it's tough, and I think there's many stories of mothers who stick around. I mean, if you think about this, even in this case, let's talk about Miss Hugo, of her covering up for her politician nasty husband. And you, in the story, how she talks about it, and I thought about it, I didn't even realize it until when she said, Bianca said that, like, maybe deep down, where did he pick her up from? Was she one of those poor women who was not willing to go back to that life? So she's gonna do everything to make sure her husband is successful, even though she knows he doesn't sleep with all half of Trinidad. And she's gonna
yeah,
try her best, because in her eyes, anything is better than what she came from. If this is all I gotta deal with a cheating man, I'm gonna make sure I fix this. I'll make sure it doesn't mess with the money, mess with how we live.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
like that point of view in it, but it goes back to even her mother. It's crazy when you think of the women in this book. The women in this book are like the true victims when you think of the experience that they're having. The sister, you know, how
Yeah,
she's,
Obadiah's sister
yeah, how is
and
she?
Bianca. Well,
Yeah,
Bianca grew up. Bianca
yeah,
grew up. I think resolving her relationship or the break in her relationship with her father helps her to grow up. but not all the fathers are available for young women to heal so that they can move on. So if what you're waiting on is to heal the relationship with the parent so that you can have a truly healthy relationship with a spouse or a partner, if the parent isn't available for you to have that healing, then you're going to have to do it otherwise or stay where you are. So I like that Bianca is able to overcome it, but you could see not every woman is going to, not every woman wants to, because like you're saying, for Eric's wife, everybody has different reasons why they tolerate things. Bianca's mom, she should have been aware of the fact that she's teaching her daughter to settle for less than she's worth when
Yeah.
she allows her husband to do whatever he's doing with no consequences. But also, it was a different time. you
Yeah.
know it's unfair for
I'm not
us
sure it's a different
in the
time though. I think there's
2020s to hold
still,
women in the 80s to the same
yeah.
standard.
I think there's
Things are
still,
different for women.
there's still women doing that. I don't think it's just the time. I think there's
Oh
some
yeah,
women
no,
who
for
still
sure, for
are
sure.
are just accepting it, and
Yeah,
not,
for sure.
it's more like they thinking they're protecting their children, but they're not.
Yeah. Charlie's comment is really interesting. Forcing her husband, adultifying her daughter rather than forcing her husband to confront the reality of her illness.
Yeah.
That's a difficult one because I think even in the last stages, this lady was trying to hold on to this appearance, this facade. And isn't that what the book is all about? Like, this facade that we
Yeah.
want to put up and hide behind, pretend that we are something that we aren't. So we see so many examples of this. Like
Yeah.
every
Every
person
character. Yeah.
is trying to masquerade.
Oh, even.
But isn't that interesting? Carnival about playing mass.
Hmm.
So what happened? Why people can't do it in their regular lives? Huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Even, and the thing is, in the story, it's even admitted.
Yeah.
Obadiah admitted it. Like, he has to go back to playing. Either he don't want anybody to know he has a conscience because he wants to get them. He likes the reputation of people thinking he's difficult.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I.
And TD said, there's always that one woman who'll stand by a trash man. No, yes, Didi. Yes.
You know it. You know it. But so one man's trash is another man's treasure. Or in this case, woman, not a woman's trash.
Yep.
Some
Yep.
other lady pick it
And
up and
it
say,
is.
"Yo,
This
treasure."
one too. This one is definitely Miss Hugo, Juliana Hugo. Is her name.
Always that one woman willing to burn down the world, especially other women, to preserve her privileges, access through that trash man. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that just talks about the political state of the. It's not just Trinidad. It's everywhere, where men. I mean, it's from Bible times, right? Men don't get charged with the consequences of relationship crimes, right? It's always the woman who gets called a name, and the man, everybody's willing to throw stones at the woman caught in adultery by herself. Where's the man? Where's the man that she was caught with? How come we don't even get him appearing? We don't even hear about him being caught.
Mm-mm.
Only take her. So, Bianca gets her face and name and whatever splashed on the headlines, and this guy gets to continue being minister and talking
Yeah.
about re-election.
Even when he thieved the people their money.
Yeah, but we
It was
have
like,
examples of that happening in our own little Caribbean country where they get a slap on the wrist. Oh, don't do it again, all right? if that. And TD says, and that's how the patriarchy is held up even today. Yeah, the boys club, and if it's the boys running it, they're just gonna keep
Yep.
propping up themselves, keep propping up each other. But Didi also said, love how Mr. O's sister knew he liked Bianca. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a good one. Yeah. Well, because she saw that his character was changing. Remember, he was coming off very hard and heartless. So all of a sudden, you actually care. Oh, you care because you like her. That's what that was. Because remember, like
Yes.
G, Gina said like everybody was wearing a mask, so he was
Hmm.
pretending to be hardcore, and then all of a sudden he's like letting go of certain things and coming off really nice. Oh no, you like her. That's why you're like this. Which I think shows him in a nicer sense of I started really liking him. I started seeing him more than just somebody that's looking for opportunity to succeed
Yes.
and gonna take this broken down girl. Which goes to the question like how important was Alexandra character to this story? Would even he really looked at Bianca a different way if his sister wasn't caught up in the same situation? I thought that was a nice little thrown in the story that I think helped the story a lot. Let me know if you guys how you felt about she being an added second dose to the issue in the story, and would he even think that much about Bianca if it wasn't for his sister going through it too?
Yeah, I think that that really probably brought it home for him because you hear about people going through things, but when it becomes personal, when it hits your family, somebody that you don't have any some of those other complexities with, you can actually fully immerse into what their experience is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think seeing Bianca's story, like going through the whole process, um, not just not just the end of a relationship and like the emotional turmoil that it would have on her, but
Mm-hmm.
seeing also what happened with her reputation
Mm-hmm.
and how difficult it is for her to move on from it. um,
Which I think went
text.
back to where Abba said the letter. That letter was my favorite part of the book. I absolutely loved that letter. When I thought of that letter, I said this author got this book right. Because how many times we've read stories with characters like that who are messy and doing these things, and the author never quite explained why is that character doing it. It's kind of like, oh, it's mental illness. No, why? This letter like really sum up how a person can get caught up in such a situation that is ugly, that is not good. And
Mhm,
this letter was just, oh, it was just icing on the cake. I said, yes, this author, she got this book right.
mhm. Yeah, I agree. I love the presentations that happen in this book, and the letter writing is one presentation. I love the artistic representation.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie's mentioning the ikebana. I don't know too much about floral arrangement myself, but I just love like the care that is taken with
Yes.
representing these different things, these different concepts, these different ideas. The book felt like very artistic, very
Yes.
illustrated in that
Mm-hmm.
way. Like real care was taken on how things were presented. That letter was one example. The descriptions of the floral arrangements, the description of the makeup,
Mm-hmm.
the description of the layout for the magazine covers and the articles, and how she was exploring themes and how to use themes to represent different things and how to just illustrate it. I thought it was fantastic.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
expression in so many different ways. Yeah,
Yeah. She just said,
I feel like it takes
I,
that. Feel like it takes that word "look" out of the title and expresses it in all these different
mhm.
facets. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah. This was also I liked too when her father
Mhm.
co-signed. This is when I started realizing the father was trying to do good. The father was trying to
Yeah.
apologize without actually saying I'm sorry because he he acknowledged because she basically talked about him in the letter. Essentially, he wasn't there, and
Mhm.
he didn't shy away from it and said, "No, don't do that. That's going to mess with my representation because everybody know you're my child." I think in it, it's one of his apology without even saying it. Like, okay, you're going to put this out there, and I thought that was a beautiful moment for her, somewhat healing a little, knowing that her father is acknowledging that he's at fault. That's how I took that his response to that letter.
Yeah.
Without again, go back to Caribbean parents not saying sorry when they really should. So,
Yeah.
but I do like this. I agree.
And I think him standing beside her in that moment also is him understanding that the world is different for men and women.
Hmm.
That yeah, he might want to show her a little bit of tough love and have her make her own way and that kind of thing, but it's just not the same experience that a woman has, because if it had been him caught in a relationship, caught in a tryst, it would not have affected his
No,
reputation. It would not have
at all.
affected him, his ability to make money. So
Yep.
it's unfair to put the weight of everything on her, because a man and a woman can do the same thing and still experience different kinds of backlash. So I think this is him, you know, just standing up beside her and saying, I understand now. I understand. I'm supporting you. Sorry that I didn't before, because I
Hmm.
should have. But I really liked where the book went in that respect. The reconciliations and the resolutions,
Yeah,
all of it.
I love this comment here. Oh, the fact
Yeah.
that Alexandra gave the money Eric gave her to support OC magazine. Yeah, and then have to ban the wife to magazine. Like when I think of this, I'm like the irony of the fact that
Yeah.
this man money funded this magazine. It's,
Yeah.
I see the loyalty there. I see why she just
Yes.
didn't want. But at the same time, it's like that's a tough one to know. That was a tough one. That was so dirty though. When you think of it, and how that man uses power.
Well, that's how he had gotten ahead, to that point. So, if you've always done something, you just think you can continue doing it.
That's true.
This
Wow,
little
that was
old
yeah.
man using his money to get these young ladies.
Yep.
Um, he figured he could keep doing it, and up until then, there had been nothing to suggest that he should stop.
Nope.
Yeah. Didi says the author also shows how doing the wrong thing, living on an island, can affect everything. Yeah. Small, small, small environment. Everyone seems to be in touch with everyone else.
Yeah.
And it's
This.
also the what is it? It's like the society that they're living in. It's not, it's not everybody, but these people were all related in some way. Like
Yeah.
not even the 7 degrees. Like everybody's just 1 degree away from everybody else.
Yeah. This what where Val interested. Even though Alexander and Bianca are different, they are common in terms of loneliness. So he was seeking them out from them being lonely and not being seen. That's a big one. They weren't being seen. So if you're not being seen and someone comes up and give you attention, you think of how he met Bianca in the coffee shop, the bookstore, and she's reading and she's there every day. He watched her every day that she's always by herself and found a way to just get in there and to actually like take advantage of her. And knew he could do that. The same thing with Alexandra, even though she seems more aggressive than Bianca, she's also not, she's lonely. No one talks about her. She's
Mhm.
even with her brother, every time they have a conversations about his
Yes.
endeavor, his
Yes.
magazine, what he
Yes.
wants to
Yes.
do, and never once did he even ask her what do she wants to do, what is her goal, because everything was always
Wasn't
centered
that
around him.
interesting though? Because they came across as being so close. And
But
you
it
would
happens.
think
It
he probably
happens.
thought that they were so close because he
Yeah,
could tell her everything without
everything,
realizing that
but
she
it wasn't
wasn't being.
listening to her. Yeah,
Yeah.
she wasn't even open. I don't think she realized she could say stuff sometimes. I think some people always assume if their dreams is not as big as another person that they don't want to
Yeah.
say anything. My stuff is small. I just
Yes.
want to be a nail technician. Versus he's trying to have an empire and a magazine and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So maybe
Yes.
she
Yes.
thought she couldn't say anything. But at the same time, it happens. There's times when even with our own personal life, sometimes people don't know what our goal is and what our aspiration is, and they just sitting there telling us all their stuff, and we're just soaking it in, and we're trying to give them advice. Oh, you should do this, you should do that, and never once open up our own mouth and say, "Hey, I want to do this, even though it's much smaller scale than what they want. We do that. And you see how it can affect somebody on a level where they make bad decisions because they're not seen.
But again, it's that self-esteem,
Yep.
that low self-esteem is this, that's the thing that they have in common. Alexandra and Bianca, they start off being feeling like they are invisible, even to the
Yep.
people who are supposed to be the closest to them. We read about young women who have low self-esteem because they don't have any relationship with a father, or they don't know who their father is. Bianca had a father. He would come around once every so often, and it's not like
Hmm.
he had moved out of the country. She was in touch with him, she was in contact with him, but she wasn't having a relationship with him. And Alexandra has a brother who you like, okay, parents are not
Yeah.
around, but she has a brother, they talk all the time.
Yeah.
And
And
here these
you
two
hear that with people making mistake all the time, that
vulnerable.
it's not what you're thinking, oh, that person
Yeah,
shouldn't have been doing that. She had
right.
both parents. You hear that sometimes both parents are there. You expect that from
Yeah.
somebody who's absent a parent, or and you wonder why they do the stuff they do. Yes, they might be in a household with people, but no one sees them. No one,
Yeah.
you have
Yeah.
it with siblings. You have a household full of siblings, and you have that one sibling who's not seen, not heard, because they're just not that visible in the family. And then they do something, you're like, oh, we didn't see that coming. They weren't being seen
Hmm.
and heard. And some people like attention, and they don't get it. They seek it
Yeah.
elsewhere, and sometimes it's not the greatest.
The other thing that was really striking to me about Bianca's experience was that she had gone away. She
Mm,
had, you would say, okay, if she had been living there her whole life and all her friends had left and she had
hmm.
nothing, then okay, maybe you understand. But she went away. She went to England, went to the UK. Was it England? She went away
Yeah.
for 4 years to study,
Hmm.
came back, and you're like, okay, this woman should be at the top of her game. You expect that when she walks down what's it called? Walk down the plank off the airplane. When
Hmm.
she walks off the airplane, she would have offers rolling in,
Well,
people who want to reconnect with
she
her and
did
all of that.
have opportunity, and but it still was masked with the loneliness. She had opportunity. She wanted
It
to write.
wasn't,
She
it
was doing
wasn't,
stuff,
it wasn't enough.
but
Yeah.
it wasn't
It
enough
wasn't enough
because
to
she was
overcome.
still lonely. Think about it. She had no friends. She
Yeah.
didn't even have any friends.
No connection. She didn't
None.
have her. She hadn't found her
Yeah.
tribe. And my heart, like Alba said, her heart bled for Bianca. My heart bled for Bianca because she meets Eric in the coffee shop where she goes to read, and you're thinking, okay, only beautiful things could happen in this place. And then she
Hmm.
meets this awful man
Yeah.
who comes giving her a book, and you're like, this seems like it should be a fairy tale, right? She's
Hmm.
there reading all the time, and this guy comes over. He's been let's not use watch. He's been noticing her, and he comes and he gives her a book with something written in it. This sounds like the beginning of a fairy tale,
Yeah.
and yet it is somebody trying to
Well,
be a predator.
that's what a lot of these predators do. They watch and
Yes,
they sell
yes.
you what you want to hear. This and they listen. They're good listeners because everything you tell them, they're going to find a way to use it against you. And that's what he did when she talks about her father not being there. Where she talks about what she wanted to do, write the writing and all that. Of course he's using it. He's soaking it in, and he used it against her in the long run. And it's very evident in the book, like he really was a predator. He was good at what he did, and he used that a lot on the younger women who are just finally learning about themselves, trying to figure out what they want out of life, and he saw them as a great opportunity to get what he wanted from them. And that's the sad part about men
Yeah.
like that, because they exist everywhere. Everywhere.
Oh yes. Oh yes. And I love what Didi said. She said fairy tales are lies. Didi always coming in with the one liners. Yeah.
They are.
The-
They are.
Charlie
I
said
mean, and sometimes
Alexandra.
it goes beyond the youth. It goes beyond your 20s. You older,
Yes.
and
Oh,
people
absolutely.
are still selling you those fairy tale because you want that life that you see other people have, and you might have to go through a couple of rotten people trash you to get it.
Yeah, if you're ambitious, you're vulnerable. If you are looking for something, anything, if you're on a search for something, you're vulnerable. You have to just be aware that not every opportunity that is presented is going to be a good one. So yeah, I like Charlie's comment where she said Alexandra had what Eric probably, well, was it he? What he probably perceived as a dream job working in a bank. I used to
Oh
work,
yeah.
I worked in a bank in Jamaica. I remember in high school, that's what to me was a dream job. Like, you come out of school and that's where everybody wants to work. I thought everybody,
Mhm.
the ladies work in the bank and air conditioning and you wear stockings and you count money all day. Sounds like a fantastic opportunity. And yet we see that Alexandra, even in that life,
Yeah.
she's not happy. She's not fulfilled. I also left the bank. It's not as fulfilling, or it wasn't for me back then. Um, Not that there's anything wrong in
Charlie
the
all
bank.
said, listen, should have been her,
But
should have been taken too.
I
I
could
would.
find out.
I love me a
Yeah.
coffee shop and a book. And I see you
Oh
coming in there
yes.
and I find you attractive, and then you come up to me and I would fall for him. I would have fall for him. The problem is as soon as I find that you are not single, it's peace. I'm old enough to know this ain't for me. But you get a gullible person like Bianca, and even after she found out the man is married, she's still like, oh yeah, I'm still gonna be with him. I'm gonna be
But she
hiding in
said
bushes.
next week
Yeah,
I'll drop it.
I'm gonna be hiding on the beach in bushes because kids might see me. I'm gonna be doing all this stuff, and
That
just
one was
doing
rough.
them.
That one was rough to read because he's pushing her down in the hole and
You
falling
know,
on top of her, and she getting cuts and scrapes and bruises,
yeah.
not to mention her ego. And at any moment, like these kids could see her, and I mean, I'm not saying that they'll be traumatized, but it would be embarrassing. Like that's the kind of embarrassment that I don't know. I don't know if you live that down for I don't not that you don't, but I don't think you live that down very easily.
Oh Lord,
Even if the people
Charlie.
don't know who you are, you just
Charlie
feel
said the
bad.
bank teller in Canada 6 years.
I was there for 6 years too, Charlie. 6 years. People thought I had it made, but you have to know
Fatima
what you
said the
want to
same
do.
thing too.
Fatima said the bank uniforms are a fashion statement. Fatima, you know it. I would have worn mine 7 days a week if I could.
My
But
favorite
you know,
line. My favorite line. Absolutely. Keep well.
Massa did not.
Keep well. When I tell you, I said that to somebody the
Well,
other day. I was like, I love that line. Oh my God. That's like the ultimate shade. Keep well. What we say in Jamaica though? Walk good.
walk good, walk good. Yeah, you know that you have no love for that person. You're not.
Walk good.
Listen, walk over there, okay? This is essentially what you're telling them, right?
Yep. I
But
love that. Keep well. I said, yeah, that's a good one.
mhm.
Yeah.
Really love that resolution for her.
Yes,
Not that
absolutely.
life is a better roses afterwards, but that she's able to move herself from under Eric's thumb
Mhm.
and let him know it, you
Yes.
know, to let him know that he no longer has any power over her.
Yes. I
Do
love
what you
that
do.
that part when she brave
Stop.
enough to go to his office and
I
say
know.
what she yes. And then when the wife stepped in there and she let her have it too, I was just like, oh, this is just good. This
Yeah.
is just good. That's that moment where she knows she can walk now with her head up. Because for the longest, anywhere she goes, she has her head down because if people say her name, the scandal is there. And that I felt like that was her moment to like, you know what? I'm gonna lift my head up. It happened. I moved on. That's it. And I like how that went through.
hmm One of the things I really admire about the book is about Bianca's name. That her name is Bridge. And
Hmm.
so she is the connection between the past and the future. And so we have to read about her experience to see like, what is possible for women. Number one, when they're not um it's not that she couldn't do it on her own, but I feel like in this case, she didn't get in trouble on her own. She
Hmm.
didn't get isolated on her own. So we needed to see her support system kind of closing around her
Hmm.
and help to give her that boost
Hmm.
to accomplish what she was going to do. And so
Yes.
I love how her story is written. to
Mm-hmm.
show that connection between what was
Mm-hmm.
and what can be
Yes.
when everybody in the village, everybody in the community really does what they should, like rallying
Yeah.
around us. So I love her name. I love the fact that she has her mother's name too. So it
Mm-hmm.
shows that, her mother could have been the bridge.
Yeah,
Um,
I like how the father was kind of like that's it's a bit of an arrogance there where he was like, if you had my last name, we wouldn't be going through this. Like, he felt like nobody would have, she wouldn't have lost her job. They would have just, no, we're not gonna, So it's that part of the story. I kind of felt like, oh goodness, it's nice she
and
had her mother name,
that's
but
probably true. That's probably true because we give a pass sometimes to people just because of what their last names are.
yeah. So somebody brought it up here. Hmm.
I love her use, yeah, power switching things up using her father's name and they could say nothing. Yeah.
That support was important. That support was important. She needed that support.
Okay. Alicia said she's been using that keep well statement since reading the book too.
Yeah, that's a good shade. Keep well.
Boss moves. Gina says boss moves. Charlie said her workplace had the same uniform colors as a Jamaican bank and everyone complimented it. Which Jamaican bank, Charlie? Scotia Bank? No, because they have Scotia Bank in Canada. Yeah. I loved it. So, was there anything else about the book that you guys wanted to talk about that we haven't mentioned so far? I know we talked about the corn soup. Were there other food mentions that you wanted
Radhika, can
to
we talk
talk?
about Radhika? I love her.
Radical.
Yeah, I love her character. She came in feisty. She came in from the first time they met. Bianca met, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is gonna be a good one in this story.
Yeah, Radical is real. She was real. Like she
Yeah,
was.
and Dante too. I thought Dante was too.
Yes,
You know,
I liked all of them. For
yeah.
people who work in what we might think from the outside, I know I did kind of think about the makeup industry as being a little superficial. They really showed that they had a finger on the pulse. I love those characters.
Yeah,
They were
they
really good.
added something to the story, especially for an office setting, because when you think
Yes.
of Obadiah's personality, you needed some somebody else in the mix that
Yeah,
is going to be,
balance.
yeah, that's going to balance him out because he was very aggressive. But I like that. I do like, talking about Dante and his lifestyle and how in the Caribbean, that's just how it's not accepted, and how that was a struggle. I like that they still added that to the mix, because in fashion that is common, and to know that you're in the Caribbean and you can't really live the life that you want. I thought that was a interesting addition to it, but it was very true.
Gina said Dante had a mask on too.
Yeah, because he couldn't where sorry. He couldn't live the life he wanted to.
Hmm.
Yeah, he couldn't live even though everyone in that circle knew. This one's another one. Oh, yeah. Very descriptive. That's why I said this was a true Caribbean book. You felt Trinidad in so many different ways. From the culture, the food, the places, how they celebrate. You felt it in this, and how they think of politics and beauty and all that stuff. This was a very good Caribbean book that you knew you were reading a Caribbean book, which is sometimes we lose in some of our Caribbean books that you can't tell. I remember last year reading a romance that was Caribbean, and it was based in Trinidad, and I did not know I was in Trinidad. You know, so, and I talked about it in my review, and it was a little disappointed. But this, you felt like you were in Trinidad.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. She didn't just show the good parts. She didn't just show the bad parts. There was a really good mix
Mm-hmm.
of
Yeah.
experiences, extremes. Like she showed Bianca being robbed. Like she just
Yeah.
walks out of this place and this man tries to pull off her chain, and she's
Mm-hmm.
so intimidated that she just unclasps or tries to
Yeah.
unclasp it herself for him. Like
Yep.
that's something that
It happens.
that's not an everyday experience, I think, for most of us. But it may be something that people in a certain place deal with regularly, having to hide their jewelry when they are walking in close spaces and stuff like that. So I felt like she really showed the good and the bad experiences of living in a place.
Yeah.
So I have never been to Trinidad. I'd love to. I'd love
Me
to go,
either.
but I felt like I visited Trinidad in this book for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Diddy was saying Dante was an interesting character, being gay and women not knowing it.
Yeah. It
And
happens. It
yeah,
it happened because I think in the Caribbean, unfortunately, a lot of what we stereotypical things that we all associate with being gay is not, you wouldn't see it because the safety. So they're going to force everything to not become who they really are because of safety. So I can see that happening. You're not going to see things that we were accustomed to seeing now, where we might identify and think the person might not be straight. Caribbean, they will mask that so well that I can see how someone would not know that the person is gay. It's unfortunate. Um, it is very realistic. Of you would not see a lot of feminine men that you were typically associated with being gay in the Caribbean. They will hide that because they will get slander with names, and then leads to other things happening to them. So safety is still a big topic in the Caribbean, especially knowing in Jamaica as well,
yeah,
that you cannot freely be yourself if you are gay. So I can see how somebody wouldn't know the person is gay.
yeah. People having to hide themselves for so long that it becomes that almost becomes a part of who they are.
Hmm.
This living two identities or trying to live two identities, a different one at various points. So that was really interesting. I loved Charlie's comment that I love something. I love that something as minor as Obadiah's wrist kerchief had a story. I love that too. I love how she explores like
Hmm.
the little
Yeah.
details and shows you how they link to certain things. Um, Peter, you definitely have to comment on this. Fatima asked, "Did you all enjoy the format, especially those who journal?"
Yes. Yes. I mean, I was in the moment when I was like reading this, and I was like, oh yeah, that's why I love the letter so much, because that just felt like a journaling moment, and
Hmm.
she just decided to like share it. Um, I like those inner communication with yourself when you're going through it. I like that moment where you're talking to yourself, and it's okay. I tell people all the time, talk to yourself. You can write about it and talk to yourself, because sometimes saying it out loud or reading it on the paper may you reflect on it long enough that you might have an aha moment. You might have a realization about something. So I was loving the format of this book. The writing was just for me, and I enjoyed that. Now I do find that in the beginning I was like, okay, it felt a little slow in the beginning. I remember just thinking, okay, but I realized as I keep reading, that it was a character development. The author wanted us to really get to know the character in the story. So when as they evolve and
Yeah.
change and become a better version of themselves, you understood where they started from. So I think she wanted us to really love the characters, that she put a lot of time in the first two parts of us getting to know them. And I think I have to appreciate that in the story.
as it relates to the journaling, also, I like how she is almost trying to change how she journals. There are moments where she writes something and she said, I kind of regret that this is the thing that I'm focusing on, which I think is a real relationship that you have with your journal,
Yeah.
because you can't all like you don't always feel like you can control your thoughts. This is your thought. This is what you write down. You're being real with what you are focused on, what you're thinking about. You write it down, but you wish that you were thinking about something else. So like in that beginning where she writes a letter to Obadiah and she's waiting for a response. And all that she writes in her journal that day is no response or didn't hear anything or something like that. Like the whole day, her entire journal, her journal entry is that
Hmm.
she hasn't heard. It's like negative because she
Hmm.
hasn't heard. There's this emptiness, and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
couldn't you write about something else? But no, that's her
No,
being real with
I
her journal.
those
This is
are
what.
those are beautiful journaling moments. Those
Yes.
one-liners, those that one word that is like really a trigger for you for different reason. Those are
Mm-hmm.
beautiful journaling moments. Like I always tell people, do not worry about if you can't write a long page or a paragraph. That
Yeah.
moment where
You
this is all
always
she
have
got
that.
in her, it's important
Yeah.
because when she reflects on it later, she's gonna realize why and be able to write about it then. But that's all she can do. I love those journaling moments. I'm always here for those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought you would enjoy that for sure.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for that
That's
comment.
really
Was that Fatima?
yeah, that
Love that
Fatima.
comment. Thank you guys.
Yeah, this
Um,
is what I was saying in the beginning. It was quite a yeah. Yes, we all we know. I don't think anybody cared for him in the beginning. We just but we had to see that part of him to see the growth.
yeah,
Oh yeah, this one too. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But at this point, success. There's a bit of a success because I think if he didn't have any form of success, he would not feel the need to come out. But he has some success now, so there's that feel that I can be protected because I have some success. Maybe why he would just finally come out.
yeah. I think that's true.
The tough
I don't
one.
want to. I don't want to say. I don't want to say. I'm being coy. I know, but okay. Let me say it. Just because if Dante comes out, just him coming out is not the fairy tale ending, because
Mm-mm.
you read about the experience of people who have queer identity, and in a lot of cases there's a lot of backlash that they suffer.
Mm-hmm.
So is he better off living a double life? I don't know.
Yeah,
It
that's a
might be
tough
an
one.
opportunity for him to it might be an opportunity for him to do what he does, but also not let the people who
I,
may
I
have an
think
opportunity to
I think for
influence his
some of them though
life.
is exhausting. That double life is
Absolutely.
exhausting.
In
And I think
any
sometimes they
part
feel
of
like,
your life.
if they have somebody supporting them now that he has friends and he's in a
Yeah.
circle of people that do not treat him differently, he might lose his family, but he still will have some form of support. I guess that's how I
Right.
I
Right.
would look at it. But that double life gotta be exhausted. Gotta be.
So I think the key is, like you said, him being established in one space. So if he gets really established in his career, it may be enough, or may
Hmm.
feel like it's enough for him to come out and potentially lose some other things just because he's established in this space.
Yeah.
But for someone who's searching for someone who doesn't feel like they have much, you mightn't want to lose anything. You mightn't
Mm.
feel like you stand to
But
lose it.
in the story though, I mean, the impression I got that he wasn't really single.
That he wasn't single.
That's the impression that comment when he made that when he was saying to Dante never had love before, never experienced love before, and the way that comment that he made, he didn't flat out say it, but it's just insinuated that he's not.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Let's say
Yeah.
enjoy it.
I'm fresh off reading this book, Kai Miller's "Things I Have Withheld," which you talked about a few
Yeah.
days ago, and it made me think about
Oh
the
yeah, he did.
experience of
Yeah,
people
Shawty
who,
said he had Danielle, because that's what I thought. I didn't get the impression that he was single.
yeah, okay, Danielle. Yeah. Okay. Any other thoughts that we didn't? I know we could talk about this book all night, but
I know, right?
we won't.
Somebody I talk about the format. The format, yeah, I like the format. I like the breaking it down into parts and having each part, different. Either Bianca or Obadiah doing it. Um, the title, tip of the spear, middle passage. I love that. All the dead, all the living. So the title. So I like that. I think overall, I think she really did well with this. Um, and I like the cultural addition to it of the heritage, the Chinese heritage in this, um, and the have and the have nots. I think she covers a lot of different Caribbean things in this. Um, and even where they live, who live in what community, and that part when Obadiah's watch was stolen, and he went to the police station, and once he told him where he lived, it was like I felt bad for
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
So it's talked about there, and yeah, even how she got her car back, the sister. It's like
Yeah.
nobody was going to investigate that, but once somebody that's established and wealthy, and it's common in the Caribbean, those who have it are able to like get away with not doing certain things, and yeah, and so Gina said yes. I thank you. I think it was a good group read too. I think it gave summer because you really get the feel of Caribbean. He had some drama to it. The writing was nicely done and it's memorable. So yeah, I think we did good this year with this pick. And I'm glad that most people like. What did everybody love this book? That should be a question. Let me know. And what if you had to rate it? What would you give it?
Interesting. I'd love to hear people's ratings.
Yeah, the
Gina
cover.
also said, "I'm glad Bianca got the opportunity to be away from Lincoln Ragunanan." Yeah. Lincoln.
Yeah.
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 Val.
Oh yeah, this cover was absolutely. And then the more I look at it, the more I see the Asian inspiration on
Mhm.
there. At first, I didn't really see it, but when I look at it now, I'm like, yeah, you can definitely see it now. But I thought this cover was really Caribbean. It gave me carnival. I love now that I see like the thing on the face and the makeup and stuff. It definitely gives me the feel of the storyline, and so this was really really nice.
Mhm.
And the title, the title is very catchy. It's very catchy.
Mhm. So I think most people are saying 4 star.
Yeah, she has a short story collection. I haven't read it yet, but I definitely want to read it now. um
Mhm.
4 stars, yes. Oh, you didn't get to read it. Oh, that's bum.
Read it later. Read it when it
Yeah,
comes in.
it's
Whenever
worth
it comes
reading.
in,
It's worth
you read it.
reading.
I don't think we spoiled
Yeah.
the book for you.
Yeah, I think
Hopefully.
4 star is the average, and I felt the same way too. 4 star.
Okay, Charlie gave it 5 stars. So
Hmm.
I gave it 5 stars for having so much in it. I would take
Yeah,
a hard pass on, and yet I loved it. Yeah, I
yeah,
I think
and
it was really well
that's true.
executed.
That's true. Because
It wasn't
normally,
just a
would
good
I have
idea.
picked it up prior? I probably would
Mhm.
have bought it. I don't know if I would have read it right away. So I'm kind of happy that we were able to agree and select this for the group read. Um, and give her that support, that push, and it's everywhere, and we need that. I think even when the books that I've read this time around for Caribathon, I've read some books that recently got re-released. They were out of print for years, and it's just amazing. Um, there's one that I read that uh, Jamaica Kincaid talked about that no one ever talked about that book, and how it's interesting as somebody from the Caribbean that we don't even know these books, and that's because they don't get pushed, so they lose visibility, and
Mhm.
they are not in the library, and it takes someone to push for it to come back in print. So this is probably one of the best thing that I think happen when I see Caribbean authors get the shine, and I don't complain when they're over exposed, because the more they get exposed, they can have somebody along with them, because they're oftentimes see them blurb other books, and somebody might, oh, this
Yes.
person, I know this author, they blurb this book, let me pick it up and give them that attention, because there's a lot of good Caribbean stories out there, and we have to keep pushing it and giving them the exposure so that they can be in the libraries, and people can get them without having to go beyond and to find a copy of a book, because that happens sometimes.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I think just to extend that, the more, not just the more exposure, but how well a Caribbean book does, it's more likely that another Caribbean author will get an opportunity to get published. Because I don't know where Brianne McIver's short story collection was published. It seemed like it was a smaller publisher. I'm
It
not. Was it?
was because I tried to get it, and how long it would have took me to get the book, I didn't purchase it yet. I am going to still try and get a hold of it, but
Yeah.
it was taking a while before it to be shipped to me. So it was
Oh
way
yeah.
past this month. So that's another issue too, because of
Hmm.
they're not available, easily available, that because and no one talks about them. So that's why Caribathon is so important. All the other groups read Caribbean, and everybody that's discussing Caribbean book is important. It's because we are having a hard time getting these books published and to stay on the shelf.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm always at awe when I see Caribbean authors who get a lot of shine, and people
Oh
everywhere I
yeah.
go I see a book,
And
because
this one was
it's
published by
necessary.
HarperCollins.
Yeah, yeah, it's a big one. This She got a big one, and so you have to clap and give them the praise and review their books.
Yeah.
Be honest. We're not saying that you need to say you like it if you didn't like it. We're not saying that, but we just need it visible. We need to see people actually getting the book, even you just posting it on your Instagram, posting it on your TikTok, or even putting on YouTube. It means a lot to these authors and the small publishing house to get pushed to keep bringing them out.
So I was looking up on my phone because the blurb on this book, the authors that blurb this one, I don't know if you guys have physical copy. The blurb was well, the first blurb is from Monique Roffey, who wrote The Mermaid of Black Conch, which won the Costa Book Award. And that was published by People Press, which is a small British press. This was also blurbed by Carolyn Mackenzie, who wrote, what was the book that she wrote?
One Year of Ugly.
Yes, which I haven't yet read, but she's another Trinidadian author who was published by a big name publisher. And so I think because those books did really well, then it made this a
Yes.
little bit likely to get published. Another
Yep.
Trinidadian author. It's great. I completely endorse your statement. We have to just, if we want the books to be accessible to us, we're going to have to read the books that are already there to make sure that we get more like it. Gina says, I'm absolutely loving Now Lila Knows. Yes, that was fantastic. That was Elizabeth Nunez, who is from Trinidad,
I have one
but
of her books, but I still haven't read it. It's on the shelf.
and her book was published by Akashic last year. Akashic does, I think they do their due diligence. They get
Mhm.
some Caribbean authors in front of us. Another author that I learned about this year was Alex Wheatle, who's a British man. His parents, I think, are both Jamaican, and he wrote this book, Kimosha of the Caribbean, which I absolutely loved, set in Jamaica during the Buccaneer period in the 1500s. That
Oh
was
no,
that was
that one.
great.
I need that one too.
Oh yeah, oh
I'm
yeah.
glad this chat will be saved so that we can go back and look at some of these recommendations that we have right now. Um,
Yeah, Mad World was sharing the book by, I'm not sure which title, Patrick,
yeah, he has a
I don't
couple.
know his name. Yes. I had a book from him on
I
my
think I have
TBR
two
series.
books. Is that old man, old slave man, or
Yeah, Old Slave Man, I think is the
slave
title.
old man, or something like that?
Slave Old Man, there you go.
Yeah,
I keep meaning to pick it up
I
one of these
yeah, I
days.
read that one last year during Caribathon.
Yeah, lots of Caribbean books, lots of Caribbean authors to
Yeah.
just check out. Um, it's not fair sometimes when the reviews that you see are for people who don't have an appreciation for Caribbean writing or books that are set in the Caribbean and Caribbean culture in general. Not necessarily people of a specific ethnicity, just people who are not open to learning about a new culture. And so, you read,
Um,
you read,
Madwell,
share
yeah,
those
Madwell.
recommendations.
Just so you know, his books are in English as well. Most of
Hmm.
his books are in English. I don't know. I would have to look up what the English version of this is. Maybe Dee Dee can translate that. I don't know, Dee Dee, if you can translate that.
Love the Night. I always love the night. Is that it? I have always loved the night.
I would embarrass myself. I took 2 years of French. Don't ask me. A shame. Oh, I always love nighttime. Okay. Let me see. I write that down. See if I can.
Val said Small Island is one of my favorite books of all time. I am
Yeah,
with you
that's a good
there.
one.
I love that book. I read that book and immediately gave my copy to someone whose life story is so like Hortense's life story. And I feel like for me, when I read some of these books, I feel like I know the characters, or I feel like I am the character that the author is writing about.
Hmm.
Like there are so many things sometimes
Yeah.
in these books that are just so representative. It feels like you are revisiting your own life, your own childhood, your own hometown, or the life and hometown of somebody that you
I
know
had a
based
lot of questions with this one when I remember this book. I remember just wanting to like pick my grandma brain because of
yes.
how far back it went. And I thought it was an interesting one. But it's been so long I read that book. I really think I should own it and reread it because I don't have a copy. Um,
Read it
but
again.
I do want to read more from
Andrea
the author.
Levy.
Yeah. She has a couple more that I want to read.
Yeah, I'd recommend her book, The Long Song, which is set in Jamaica during the period of enslavement.
Hmm.
That was a very strong read as well. We read that for book
Yeah.
club last year. Didi, you are going to love Small Island. I could tell. I could tell. You will love
Yeah.
Small Island. It is definitely a Didi kind of book. And this also has the dual, not dual, the multiple timelines, the multiple
Yeah.
perspectives. That's the word, multiple perspectives, which I personally really enjoy when it is well done.
Mhm.
Sometimes I've read books where it wasn't well executed. This is one of
Yeah.
those times it's really well executed, and just to kind of see how the characters' lives intersect.
Hmm.
You're not sure when you have characters who their lives and their successes are opposites. You're not sure who you're rooting for anymore. I love
Hmm.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. A lot of people want to read it.
We may need
Well
to
said.
do
Well
a
said. You're gonna
mini
love it, Dee Dee.
Caribathon.
So yeah,
We
Dee
may need
Dee.
to do a mini
Maybe
Caribathon
I'm,
group
I'm
read.
due for a reread because it's been a couple of years. So maybe let's add to the list.
Maybe we need to read, because I could reread Small Island. I could reread
Yeah,
that book anytime. We need
we
to
should
read
do
that book
that.
together.
Yes,
All
and then
right.
chat. So that could be a
This
thing,
was
Dee
great.
Dee.
This was really great.
Yeah.
I enjoy hearing everybody's thoughts on this
Mhm.
book. I love when I have read a book and I could talk to other people, not necessarily that you have loved it, but that you could give me different perspective on a book, and just to share, what we found in common and what we found to be different.
Mhm.
Love to hear how other people find read of a book that I have personally enjoyed. And so I read this book before the group read. I didn't share that. So I read this when it was in galley form. HarperCollins gave me a NetGalley link, and I read it on my phone. And it was one of those books, when I started reading it, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna skim this because I feel like I know where this is going. Again, I thought it was a romance. I'm just gonna skim this a little bit. But as I read, I think maybe when I first met the part where Obadiah is writing, I started to get really sucked in, and I was reading this, like I said, on NetGalley. So I was reading it on the Kindle app on my phone, and I would read it at night because that's when I read on my phone. And every night I was finding myself wanting to pick up this book and just like staying up to read this book. And I was like, this is really good. I'm not sure how far in I was. I was like, this is a really good book. And then I just like one day I just sat and just finished it because I was so immersed in finding out how this book was going to be resolved. So I loved rereading it. I love
Mhm.
rereading it in the finished version, just seeing how what things were different, which I can't recall anything that was like significantly different. Just maybe in the formatting a little bit.
How you feel about the
But I
ending?
really did this book. Huh?
How did you feel about the ending?
How did I feel about the ending?
Mhm.
Um, Well, we talked about the fact that, I thought it was going to be romance and it wasn't. I loved seeing how the characters change. I love seeing how they became more of themselves, not necessarily what other people expected them to be, but just more like self
What I what I,
actualized,
what I
being
meant more
strong.
like that it didn't go to the romance. It was like how she
Yeah.
ended in saying that waiting for him to add to her story. Because I miss there's a comment in there I missed where somebody was like, I thought it was gonna be no, she ended in like it's like leaving it to the reader to come up with their own.
Yeah, dear Obadiah, I have a proposition. Will you write your version of events? And it's like the author breaking that barrier and showing you how the book comes about, right? So like we've already read his story, but showing how that actually happens. My vision of the final novel is your voice interspersed with mine. Like, isn't that really romance though?
Mhm.
Like, is it just romance if they're walking off holding hands into
Yeah.
walking into the sunset? My vision of the final novel. So this thing that was her labor of love, this thing that started off being how she was going to express what it meant to be a woman, because she was writing her mother's story, and she said she was writing her mother's great loves, and
Yeah. The
then
three great
giving
loves.
Obadiah an opportunity to not just be a part of the story, but to write, to help to author that story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
So
sweet.
it was a
It's to the
cliche.
point where I'm like,
Cliche at all.
she can write a romance. She can write a good romance if she really wanted to.
I could see it.
She
I could
can.
see it.
I think a real because honestly, I have not really seen or read a really true beautiful Caribbean romance. Uh, Oftentimes it is not. It gives it's romance, but not enough. But I think she has the ability to really, really, if she wanted to. write a good romance that is not going to be your typical romance, but still has a beautiful storyline. So maybe if you see this, bring it on. If you see it. Oh, I'm so jealous you get to talk to her, guys. Karen will be talking to her soon.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. If you guys have questions that you want me to ask Miss McIver, send them to me. You send them to me on Instagram, um,
what
or
do you have the
comment.
date
I will
final
make
that
sure.
you can share that they can just know when you will be talking to her?
Um, yeah. So it's going to be July 5th. I will I will publish a flyer by tomorrow. That is my promise. July 3rd, Monday, July 3rd at 7:30, we're going to be talking. Monday. So the day before 4th of July. I thought it was the day after. Monday evening at 7:30, I'm going to be talking with Miss Brianne McIver and getting a little bit of her insight in this book, and maybe what she's going to write next, if she's going
Yeah,
to write the Caribbean romance that Peter is looking for.
yeah, yeah.
So
Maybe
this
add
was
that since I won't be able to do it, guys. My work
yeah,
schedule is not allowing that. So, hopefully you save it and I can watch it
oh yeah,
later.
hmm
So, but thanks,
yeah,
guys. We're gonna wrap it. Oh, we talked an hour and a
yeah,
half. Yay!
yeah.
So I want to thank
This was really
everyone
fun.
who participated,
Hmm.
who joined in this
Yes.
chat. And for those of you who didn't get to see it live and watching it on repeat, go ahead and drop some comments down below. And yeah, so thank you so much, and I really, really appreciate for you to come on this Sunday evening and chat with us. I know some of you guys are a couple hours ahead in a different
Yes.
country,
Thank you,
so
Didi.
thank you, Dee Dee, and there's a couple of other ones I know that lives in other country.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much,
everyone.
and
Hmm.
yeah, and keep reading Caribbean books, keep sharing, guys. Just not just for June, but all year long. And I will continue to share and give you guys more Caribbean books to talk about. And leave in the comment section. Give me some of your favorite Caribbean books, and so that other people can see it and
Yeah.
able to to pick it up. And yeah, so thank you, guys. What do you want to say,
Thank
Karen,
you
before
to
we leave?
everyone for participating. Caribathon is only a success because of everyone participating and sharing recommendations. And I started a summer reading challenge that I am hosting. If you want to see the prompts for the reading challenge, the last one, save the best for last. The last one is to read a book set in the Caribbean. So if you know someone else who's doing the reading challenge and they're looking for a Caribbean recommendation, you can share this book because it's a great one.
Yep.
But I look forward to hearing from you. Like Peter said, look forward to hearing from you about other Caribbean recommendations, because I haven't read all the authors, but it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun for 4 years, sharing this experience in June of reading Caribbean books with you.
Mhm.
But look forward to just hearing about us all reading more Caribbean literature and promoting more Caribbean literature all throughout the year, because there are lots of great books, lots of great authors to experience. So thank you so much for the recommendations that you've already shared with me. Thank you so much for this discussion. Peter, thank you for hosting this chat. And I wish everyone a fantastic evening and a great week moving forward.
Okay. Don't hang up, Karen. But I'm gonna end this
Okay.
broadcast now, guys, and I will see
Okay.
you in the next
Thank you
one.
guys. Bye.
Bye.